Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is September 3rd, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week. I feel like this whole series of stories, when I was reading them, I feel like it had a theme, and the theme was no free speech for anybody.
Well, it's kind of the theme of
it's always been, but it felt really, really pronounced this week.
No, it's getting serious at this point. But you got that wrong. You said no free speech for anybody, but there is one group that has unlimited free speech, and that are the corporate lobbyists. Not only do they have free speech, but they have a ridiculous amount of power. How did we let this happen?
Appliance and tractor companies lobby against giving the military the right to repair. And I was reading this expecting, I didn't realize John Deere had a military wing where they're manufacturing missiles or guidance systems or something. And no, that's not it at all. It's literally the corporate interests that own everything are having all of their companies say, hey, we should not do this right to repair thing because they're scared to death of right to repair.
Apparently there are some cases where you couldn't even write a manual without getting permission from the company.
And let's say that something breaks down in, Syria or whatever. It needs to be fixed. And you've got engineers that work for the military, but they're not allowed to. So what you do is you fly an engineer to there, which obviously commercial planes aren't going to land out there.
Also, what's the liability on that?
Then you helicopter them at that expense to the thing and you let them fix it. And when the military audited that and they were like, whoa, we got to do something about this, the corporate lobbyists were like, no, we can't let you do that.
We, in fact, should fix this. It should require documentation and open standards. And that would actually make a lot of things go away, because if you have IP protection and if you have properties and controls, if somebody steals your stuff, it's going to be obvious because their stuff has to be open too.
Yeah, if there's one organization that does not like open records or audits, it's the United States military. And maybe a close second would be another government agency.
Watchdog warns the FBI is sloppy on secure data storage and destruction, and the pictures from the register are horrifying.
So you see this pallet right here? That's full of hard drives. Now the ones in red, I think, have been sealed and
for freshness
archived, and we know what's in there, and everything's good, and they should be somewhat secure. I mean, it doesn't look very secure, right? But the one in black has not yet been filled all the way up, so it can't be sealed. So that means that all those hard drives with FISA data and
just floating around,
all your information, they just leave it there till it gets full. Then they seal it.
And then someone forgets about it and it ends up in a government surplus auction when it shouldn't.
They also point out that they don't really have protocol for removable storage. How do you retire that as an FBI agent? No one knows.
Run into the chipper shredder.
And this is a constant topic that we talk about. It is regulatory capture. The problem with regulation, the number one problem, is when you let those being regulated write it.
AI giants pledge to share new models with the federal government. This is OpenAI and Anthropic, who makes Claude. They've agreed and said, we're going to give you early access, this government watchdog think tank, whatever, to the models before we release them on the internet so that you can preview how they work and make sure that they're safe. We don't know what making sure that they're safe is, but we're going to let your people have access to it and do it.
Oh, don't worry. That will be delivered by their lobbyists, who will define what safe is to the people in Washington who have no idea.
So this is going to be a theme for some of the other shows or some of the other stories that we point out for the rest of the week, where it's like, wait a minute, you were defining what was safe and now what was safe has changed, or you want to change the conversation after the fact? Oh no.
But it's a frenemy type of situation, because on one hand, they basically give the corporations their way and unlimited amounts of money. But once in a while, they do have to push back when it gets just so egregious that the people are about to rise up.
Yeah, so we're a hair away from a riot.
When they take away one of the requirements to survive, that's when things they have to give them a little slap on the wrist.
U.S. Justice Department sues a RealPage, alleging that it enabled price fixing on rents. So I don't think it was covered in this story. Was this the real story or the paywall alternative?
You're talking about the quote?
Yeah, well,
because
I don't know if it's in this one.
This one, I wondered if I was even reading this correctly, because it seems, I hate that.
What
It
a weird
seems so
highlight.
damning.
A landlord praised RealPage's software, saying that they liked it because the algorithm uses proprietary data from other subscribers to suggest rents and term. That's also known as price fixing.
But why would they say that?
Was that an editorial oversight? You think, was that quote supposed to be ended at term?
Could be, yeah. But it's inside the quote, so CBS News not doing a good job there if that's the case.
Well, I mean, it would be funny if he was like, that's classic price fixing, and I'm happy about it. But
But what was the thing you were talking about?
BlackRock is getting out of Florida.
Why did DeSantis do something to...
No, it's just this kind of thing where it's like there is no doubt in my mind that these large corporations that were buying residential units were using tools like that to not just it's like make it to where you can't buy a house, but also when you rent it, it's like, oh, we can extract the maximum amount possible, and it's a finite supply. So if we just buy it all, that's the really dark thing here.
the other theory I've heard about for Florida is that it's like, oh, everything's sinking, and it's going to be a huge liability in like 10 years.
Well, insurance companies are already dropping policyholders as they are in California, which again, when all the insurance companies get together, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Just
Suffer every time you have a hurricane, which
Yeah.
is frequently.
I mean, if your house is, $100,000 to $500,000, you can't just absorb that expense as an individual. That's crazy.
Well, is it crazy to think that these companies aren't constantly lying to us and promising us things that are never going to materialize? Because they all do it, but when is it too much? When does that cross the line?
Families can sue app developer for breaking its anti-bullying pledge, says court.
So YOLO, aptly named, was supposed to be like you're not going to get harassed on here. Some young man was using it. He did get harassed, unalived himself.
The parents actually asked about it too. They were like, "Hey, could this stop?" And they were like, "Oh, well, there's only like 12 of us. We can't deal with this."
No one responded. Yeah.
The way it works is it was supposed to be like you could anonymously submit questions or comments to people, but if it was abusive, it would immediately get shut down and they would be de-anonymized. But that obviously didn't happen.
Also, children are monsters.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting because like the whole 230 thing, I guess, is supposedly preempted by the fact that they made that promise.
Yeah, I guess.
Or at least that's the argument they're hoping to prove in court. But apparently the app did almost nothing.
Yeah.
Just was another messaging app, and they didn't monitor it at all. I don't even know if it was using AI to monitor things. Just
No,
wasn't-
probably not if it was before, recent developments.
How long before they get a safety board?
Now, if we all were to push back like the RealPage thing, if it got to be too far, what would stop us from actually making any kind of change? I think it's this, and we're getting it.
Wyoming is pushing crypto payments and trying to beat the Fed to a digital dollar.
Wyoming?
Well, there's only like 12 people in
Yeah,
Wyoming.
yeah. It's a little easier to implement. Small beta test.
So they're trying to do a pegged US dollar coin, and they're not going to do their own chain. They're going to use either Ethereum or Bitcoin, which is interesting. But they're going to hold treasuries to offset
The swing.
the float.
The wild swings.
And it's not guaranteed to work. Wyoming coin could go wrong. I don't know Wyoming like stereotypes or slogan, or do you?
Is it like big sky country? I mean, it's kind
It's
of.
Montana.
Yeah. Oh, that is Montana. Montana is beautiful. Cold.
Not like Wyoming.
Well, I don't know anything. It's like I don't know anything. I can't even think of any of like the parks. That's if nothing else, I usually can say like a wildlife area or something for a state, but I can't think of anything for Wyoming.
It's mostly like just ranching and stuff, right? Give us your Wyoming facts.
Is Yellowstone in Wyoming part of it?
Doesn't one of the billionaires own a continuous piece of land across almost all the flyover states from North Dakota southward to Texas?
Probably. But one of those states is maybe not Illinois. That was a terrible lead-in, wasn't it? But Illinois is doing some interesting things when it comes to artificial intelligence. This is something we've talked about a lot here in the terms of it being an arms race. And it just keeps this like compounding and getting worse. They're trying to get in front of it.
Illinois amends the Human Rights Act to address AI use in hiring and employment. Basically, employers would have to disclose if AI is being used as part of the process, and employers are still responsible if AI discriminates against somebody. So things like discriminating against people from a specific zip code are specifically out. I mean, they were always illegal, but this thing calls out and says that a defensive saying,
The AI did it. Yeah.
the AI did it is not going to apply.
But I hate these laws. It drives me out of my mind when they explicitly put in the law, and I think this is a loophole, protected groups. Shouldn't we all be protected from this?
Yeah.
Who defines protected groups?
If you can actually do the job, you are not in the protected group.
And so the federal government will get to look at the algorithms and play with them. I mean, I guess they don't really get to look at them, right? You think they'll show them the weights?
All of this seem, I mean, they should, but I'm just thinking, like, we went through this already. Like, it ended badly. Like, it didn't matter that it was illegal at a federal level to do racial discrimination. Racial discrimination still happened, and it's still enduring today in that there's basically segregated neighborhoods.
But the federal government will not yet get this privilege. Now, this has not happened yet. The governor here will get to choose whether or not to veto it, but if he chooses not to...
The Ars Technica headline is, the California legislature has passed its controversial kill switch AI safety bill.
So that means if the government figures out that AI is getting a little too scary, they must, by law in California, have the mechanism to simply turn it off for everybody.
We have to blacken the sky.
I don't know how we would translate that into AI.
The Matrix.
All of the comments and all of the news really wanted us to make the Terminator 2 joke because, at 2:14 a.m. on August 29th or August 30th or something, it became, it was learning at a geometric rate and became self-aware. It's just like, but it didn't have the California kill switch bill.
That'll save us. And the Californians are also doing another interesting one. This one I couldn't quite find the hidden problems with. This seems like just a really common thing. It's kind of sad that we need this, though, right?
Yeah.
It feels like the real solution would just be to make this not something that you're able to do.
California passes landmark bill requiring easier data sharing opt-outs for consumers. But it doesn't matter because you can opt out and they're going to put you right back in. And then it's going to be, oops, sorry, our bad.
Well, this is supposedly...
Enjoy your 10 cents from the lawsuit.
California already had a law that you could manually put yourself in the, you're not allowed to have my data list. I don't know if this globally puts you in it, but it's per browser. You're supposedly going to be able to say, hey, Google Chrome, anytime anybody asks for this, opt me out. I'm sure the Google engineers are working furiously to remove that possibility.
Long weekend, boys.
And over in Pakistan, whatever you want to call it, one of my favorite YouTube channels, Tribal People Try. Absolutely fantastic. I don't think that those boys are involved in any of this.
Web monitoring system being used for blocking online content in Pakistan, reveals minister.
What if their channel's blocked? What if their own people can't watch them try things?
YouTube did shut down their monetization at some point. Yeah, it was one of those weird YouTube things where you can't.
Yeah, sometimes it'll just, we know.
So this is deep packet inspection to make sure that you are not using a VPN. Because it turns out in Pakistan, a lot of people using VPNs because everything is blocked. It was like Twitter, Facebook. Yeah. Was Facebook one of them?
It's the Great Firewall of China, but not in China.
One of the opposition political parties' website was blocked. It's like, geez, guys, come on.
It's not even subtle.
Yeah, how on the nose are you going to be with this one? But that's unfortunate. And this was maybe the big story of the week. And as Krista alluded to, really one of the nails, maybe one of the final nails in that coffin, labeled free speech.
Telegram CEO indicted in Paris court. So the French have a whole laundry list of stuff against the person, money laundering and just all sorts of stuff. What's weird, though, is that Telegram is not just an end-to-end encryption platform. It's also a little bit like Twitter. So you install an app, and there are public channels, and there was very little policing or censorship or anything happening in any of the public channels, to say nothing of the private channels. I have a feeling, though, that this is going to be the thin end of the wedge that is used to attack strictly private platforms. Signal is more of a private platform. than a platform that has public channels. I mean, it does have some channels where you can have a large number of participants, but little different thing. And I just
if it's my group and I curate it, who's to tell me what the maximum number of people I can have in it?
Yeah.
Now, this is France, obviously. They don't have Section 230. But does Telegram have curated feeds?
I mean, curated by the individual.
No. The algorithm has to do it.
I believe so.
So that's kind of like the foot in the door
Yeah.
for the authorities to say, oh, no, this is not other people's content. You're curating it. I don't know they're making that argument here. They're accusing him directly
Yeah.
of the worst possible things.
Like he's going to prison, yeah.
Because people are doing that on the platform, and he wasn't willing to let them see it or stop it.
One of the really damning things was that, supposedly he has a spat with the government of Russia because he won't cooperate with Russia. But apparently France says they've got the goods to prove that that's not actually true, and that was all for show. We'll see. That might be propaganda.
Also mentioned that he's like a citizen of Russia, I think France, and like 3 other countries. I was like, can you do multiple countries like that?
One of those saint island countries?
Yeah, little tiny island countries. And I was like, a lot of countries don't let you do dual citizenship anymore. That's surprising.
They usually don't, but you know what can actually change that? Billions of dollars.
Money, yeah.
And Krista, the French are joining you in your hard stance when it comes to children and mobile phones.
France to trial ban on mobile phones at school for children under 15. And as pro-technology as I am, I think this is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't see anything controversial about that at all.
Now, previously you can have your phone, but you can't use your phone.
But that's such an enforcement problem. Like every teacher I've ever talked to has said, like, it is such a pain in the ass to get these phones away from these kids.
So now phones will have to be code checked. How much time does that take for every kid's phone to get processed?
I sense a business opportunity where you enter your PIN number and it goes into a locker and you're done.
Yeah, or just leave it at home.
They also pointed out another country where they tier it up. So like up to 3 years old, they're like, no phones at all, no screens. And then phone that you can call on but nothing else. And then phone with computer but no data plan. And like they ease the kids into it. Not sure if that's going to do anything.
Well, I get the idea that you want your kid to have an interest in technology and be exposed to it. So like they can live in the modern age, but also like you can't just give it unfettered access all the time.
But that's what kids now have.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like there should be like a balance there. And I think that's a good one because it's like at least while you're at school, you're not being distracted by this.
And up in Canada, this seems like a rare move for a man who seems to be the poster child of globalism, but I suppose it's selective globalism.
Trudeau says Canada will slap big tariffs on Chinese-made EVs, 100% tariff. So double the cost.
Ooh.
But we've got another story about this and Ford's thing, and this might be endemic of the market changing, but the people that make vehicles not changing with the market.
Yeah, the problem is the Canadian, and I guess they mostly buy American cars, right? Those car companies decided to make big, giant, bloated electric vehicles that no one wants. And guess what China's been making?
Small, tiny little things.
Tiny, cheap things. So how do you compete with that? Price fixing.
You remember the old, it was like the old Ford, it was even smaller than an S10. And it was like a bench seat, and it was so popular in the late 80s and early 90s. It's like China has an electric version. It's almost like they took that exact design and just slapped an electric motor in it and put a battery under the bed. And that's less than $10,000. And that's a perfectly reasonable vehicle for so many people.
Which is why they'll never sell it here. And they won't let China get away with it either. Although at that price, at 100%, it's still cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, yeah.
And Australia, we've talked about this previously, but it has now happened.
Australia is the latest country to give workers the right to disconnect after hours.
I think the first was France, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because if it's a company of less than 15 people, you have to wait till next year. And if you are paid a certain amount, or if your rank is high enough, you could be exempted because you're too important.
I can see that for like if there's an emergency, but I would expect you would be being paid for that emergency.
Can you imagine how all those companies are going to use that loophole?
Yeah.
Exploitively.
Yeah, and it's like it's not really an emergency. It's just like someone needs to change the color on this, and we need someone to do it right now at midnight.
Good news, everybody. You're all senior engineers.
I was thinking more like Walmart. It's like Walmart. It's like this is a stockroom emergency. You need to get here now and restock the chicken noodle soup. It's like,
Was that an emergency? Can that not wait till the morning?
Well, there's an emergency in Brazil because soon, very soon, some people will not be able to get their fix, and who knows what that could lead to.
Judge threatens to shut down X in Brazil. I think this is already happening. This is an old story. The judge in
It's an
Brazil
evolving story.
has actually gone nuclear. They're attacking Elon Musk's other businesses, which I think is our next
Yeah,
headline.
you're jumping the gun here.
Elon Musk dubs Brazil's judge a dictator in response to that, and that now the judge is after Starlink, and so now he's offering free Starlink to Brazil. Wow. What a wild time to be alive.
But since then, I think Musk has announced he's going to shut down Twitter in Brazil himself.
I'm sure even as we're filming this, which is late in the day on Friday, I'm sure he will sneak in another headline somewhere because that's what Elon Musk does every time we do a story.
It's a big holiday weekend, so he needs to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And the in a rare move, it was the U.S. Embassy was also supporting Elon Musk, and he's like, "Wow, I'll take it."
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to support him. It's easier now that everybody else hates him, but
You're so contrarian
that,
sometimes.
the
You're like a
Brazilian judge dude kind of seems like a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're just getting any Brazilian people in the audience. Fill us in.
Elon Musk has been filling Twitter with the whole like Voldemort, Harry Potter, and the judge because they do kind of look alike, and so he's just filling Twitter with the meme.
He's got to look like he might be that kind of guy. Not saying that means anything. And we've talked a lot on this channel about the NSO group and that family of spyware, which is kind of state-sponsored by the United States. I mean, I know it comes from Israel, but if you think that we didn't pay for that, you are very naive.
That's the quiet part. Stop saying the quiet part out loud.
And we're always assured, because, security researchers over time have raised their hand and be like, how are you going to control this once it's out? And they're like, no, we would never sell it to a dictator. And then they're like, well, here's 20 examples
Where it was sold to a dictator. Yeah.
They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But now,
Russian government hackers found using exploits made by spyware companies NSO and Intellexa. Yeah. Like we said, it's better to just... This kind of thing you have to be open with, and you have to build these kinds of things transparently. This cannot be done behind closed doors.
oh, but if security researchers could look under the hood on this thing, they would blow those whistles so hard their heads would explode. And everybody would be like, what? Wait?
Blowing the whistle so hard they have an aneurysm.
And I'm already terrified of it. And I'm sure I don't understand it on the level that many people do. So
We've literally been designing hardware with weaknesses like this. So
this was Mongolia was using this, or were they the victims here? Anyway, if you went, well, who knows? But if you went to a Mongolian website, you would be infected with this. Also, interesting note about Mongolia. Mongolia is a member of the International Criminal Court, but Putin's going to go there. He's calling their bluff. I don't think they'll do anything. And Google, as we all know, is doing us the favor of summarizing our search results. You want to scroll through all those results? Nobody has time for
I
that.
scroll over and hit web every time.
Well, that's the wrong thing to do. They're doing it for you. It's so easy. But there is a slight problem.
don't trust Google for customer service numbers. It might be a scam. And in fact, it is a scam a lot of the time because people that game the search engine have been able to convince Google that the telephone number is not actually the right telephone number.
Oh my God.
I said that I scroll over and hit web. I've had this happen to me. I looked up my eye doctor's and phone number. I clicked the first result or whatever and I called it and it was like a medical insurance scam. And I was like,
So they can go in and request a phone number update. I guess anybody can do that for a business, right? Because the business might not be actively managing their own thing.
Right.
And then the guy testing it that wrote the article or whoever told him about it, he had to do it 3 times, but on the 3rd time, it was accepted without question. So easy
change.
hack, I guess.
I had to text my aunt and be like, "What's our eye doctor's phone number?" Because I couldn't find it online. There were so many fake numbers. The internet's becoming useless.
And many of our devices also becoming useless, or maybe even worse than useless, dangerous.
Major backdoor in millions of RFID cards allow instant cloning. So this was a thing that was disclosed, I think at DEF CON, or was hinted at DEF CON or something. I don't remember. But basically, they figured out the backdoor thing in an RFID card. You can take an RFID card and fiddle with it for about a minute or 2, and it will give up its secrets, and so you can clone it.
And that key shared among every RFID card of that model. And even some of previous models. They didn't even bother to generate a new key when they did the new version. And many of them are new models in name only. Actually the exact same product with the exact same problem as the ones before. So they estimate that a motivated hacker could, within 1 minute of exposure to your RFID card without a reader, could clone it.
Fabulous.
Or without the reader that it's designed for. They'd have to have some kind of...
That's probably fine.
That's going to be a vulnerability that exists like 10 years from now. There's going to be, a story of like a serial killer, and it's like, it turns out that they picked their victims based on hotels that haven't updated their RFID system from the RFID hack of 2024.
It's like a weird Sherlock mystery.
Yeah.
It's an updated Sherlock.
And finally, we have another cyber attack. Don't we always?
Dick's Sporting Goods has shut down their email and locked their employees' accounts after a cyber attack.
Their phone systems are down too, as said.
They have 852 locations and, 16,000 employees and like 30,000 seasonal employees or something?
It's a big chain.
What a lot of chaos as a result of this.
I love the email that they sent out. I was like, your work phone isn't going to work. That's normal. Your email doesn't work. That's normal. Just wait for us to contact you on your private email. And my question would be, who gives dicks their real private email?
Yeah, I was like, who has... I guess maybe when you do your application, but what if your email changed?
We expect you to still show up for work and sell sporting goods things, but our supply chain is going to be a bit disrupted.
The other really silly, inconsequential thing I noticed from this article is that Dix is always capitalized, like all caps.
Well, it's a proper name, right?
But in the actual article.
Yeah, it's all caps, not just the
I wonder if
D.
they have that in their press kit, where it's like, when referring to Dix, only capitalize all the words. Maybe they thought it was unprofessional to have it on lowercase.
What about the possessive S, though? I guess that's part of the trademark, right?
Yeah, probably. Well, because look at even the logo.
Isn't it like a basketball or something?
Yeah, I need to go to their press page and find out how they want me to type it out.
Gotta solve this mystery. You know what? From now on, I'm only printing it lowercase.
Just as a screw you for having this cyber attack.
The apostrophe obviously should have been a shuttlecock.
Think they sell more of those than basketballs?
Probably not.
They should, though, because badminton's a great sport.
It's a little harder to get into.
Yeah, you do need a little more space for badminton.
You need space, you need equipment.
I guess that's true of basketball, too, though. I guess you can put a hoop anywhere, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, you have like a public park.
Yeah.
They usually have basketball goals.
A lot of public parks have nets. Not all, though. Anyway.
We got more craziness in the business section tomorrow. Actually, it's kind of a slow news week, so... yeah.
Enjoy that, because it's about to get more hectic as we get closer to the U.S. elections. Bye!